Επιστρέψαμε κυρίες και κύριοι με το δεύτερο μέρος της εκπομπής Ευρώπη τώρα, πάντα στο Thrakinet και σε συνεργασία με το Ευρω TV. Ας δούμε το επόμενο μας θέμα. Πολεμώντας τον τρόμο, η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση στοχεύει την οδηγία για τα όπλα.
How did the arsenal of weapons used in the fatal attacks in Paris fall into the hands of terrorists? The question is fueling the charge to better regulate the sale of firearms. The EU's executive wants to stop two types of semi-automatic weapons being sold to civilians and to make sure that deactivated guns found so easily online cannot be put back together and reused as they were in Paris. Better traceability and an EU-wide database were part of the proposals presented to MEPs on Monday.
Es ist kein Vorschlag als Antwort auf die Terrorakte, aber es erzeugt deshalb sehr viel Verunsicherung bei den betroffenen legalen Waffenbesitzern.
Proposals to the Firearms Directive will not for now tackle black market trade, especially military-grade weapons, although the Commission was quick to point out that the ban on certain types of semi-automatic weapons would catch Kalashnikovs within the net.
We need to make sure that we are cracking down on illegal use of weapons, the weapons that were allowed to get out into the hands of terrorists and cause those events in Paris and elsewhere.
Questions are also being raised over the so-called punishment of legal gun owners, and especially the rights of hunters and sport shooters, who have a tradition of using hunting rifles. Next steps, Parliament will now initiate its own report on gun control as the charge to fight terror continues.
Αμέσως τώρα θα παρακολουθήσουμε ποια είναι τα κατάλληλα εργαλεία για να αντιμετωπιστεί η αύξηση της στάθμης της θάλασσας. Γενικότερα, η κλιματική αλλαγή βρίσκεται στο επίκεντρο.
Concrete, steel and glass, the beautifully crafted architectural structures that litter a magnificent skyline. But could a day come when this great capital is swallowed up by the restless waters beneath it? Welcome to London's 520-metre wall of steel.
Barrier protects UK PLC in effect, £200 billion of infrastructure, 1.25 million people, and of course the political, cultural capital of our country. Well, without the barrier, it wouldn't have the protection from tidal flooding. So there would have to be contingency plans. So back in the 70s, they ran a series of television adverts telling people to listen out for the flood siren, the flood drill.
The mighty sea rolling up the Thames. In 1238, for instance, it was recorded the Palace of Westminster was flooded, and the boatmen did row their wherries through the Great Hall.
Fully operational by 1982, the barrier based at Charlton is made up of 10 steel gates. Each of the 8 main gates weighs 3,300 tons, or, simply put, the weight of 6.5 fully loaded jumbo jets. It gives central London a 10-fold higher rate of protection than most flood defences. But sea levels are rising some 3 millimetres year on year and projected to rise by 1 metre by the 2100s. And the cause? The ever-present looming threat, climate change. A panel of world experts, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, now say human activity is the dominant cause for climate change since the 1950s. And their findings are backed by one of the UK's most renowned research centres.
We have a warmer atmosphere and that holds more moisture, so we are already seeing in many regions more intense rainfall. And then in terms of sea level, we have 2 effects. One is the melting of ice, but we also have the expansion of the warmer oceans.
Dr. Clare is a senior researcher at the Climatic Research Unit at the University of East Anglia in Norwich, driving the push on global climate change awareness.
Looking ahead to the end of the century at 2100, if we do manage to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, we will reduce some of the future impacts of climate change. So the orange is the path that we're currently on at the moment, so continually rising greenhouse gases. In green gives us an idea of what might happen if, as a globe, we manage to keep global temperature change to something under 2 degrees.
But as we journey to the Norfolk coast, the people of Haysborough are battling to save their idyllic village from being taken by the sea.
What nobody can deny is climate change is on us. It's not a question of it might come or it will come. It's here, it's happening as we speak. The result of that is a warming planet, rising sea levels, and we're in the front line.
On a crisp winter's day, crystal clear blue seas seemingly merge with the sky, smooth white sands dotted with locals casually walking their dogs. But look up, and the erosion of the soft sediment cliff is evident.
When the waves come, I mean, I've stood up here and the top of the waves has been going over the top of the cliff.
Oh God, really?
Yeah. Difficult to believe, but when it's really going in the winter, my God, you should see it. So what this is designed to do is absolutely take the sting out of the force of the sea.
Okay.
And by doing that, it's better to crash into that than to crash into the soft cliff. It would just break it up and wash it away.
A wall of rocks, a stark contrast to the wall of steel. But could there be a more sophisticated way for this tiny village to defend itself?
Flood defences are a bespoke solution. There are areas in this country where managed retreat is employed because it's not cost effective to try and protect those areas from flooding.
But across the country at Harbour and Leamington Spa, one project to revitalise part of the UK rail network has found funding via the public purse and government backing.
The slope actually used to come closer to the railway, like it was on the other side, but it started moving.
Okay.
So Network Rail had to remove all that material, 560,000 tons of clay like that.
For John, more investment must be found for rail infrastructure.
In general, Network Rail collectively through 5 years will spend something like £300 million on works like this. And that spend is a sort of spend that we can use to make the network more resilient to future climate change. My personal belief is they need to ramp up that spending quite a bit.
The part of the tracks being worked on here service a main line from London Marylebone to Birmingham. It also carries a lot of freight, so it's an important line to defend. So does value hold the key to unlocking investment? At the end of our journey round the UK, we came back to London. What solutions can politicians provide?
Well, obviously, in terms of what you do about that, part of it is obviously still mitigation. What are we actually going to do to cut emissions at a global level? Another part of it is that we have to start looking much more seriously at adaptation, about what are we doing about flood defences, what are we doing about the design of our cities.
The EU has a roadmap for a low-carbon economy. The objective is to reduce CO2 emissions by 80 to 95% by 2050. But back at the European Parliament in Brussels, MEPs were despondent over the general lack of commitment.
We agreed to create an international climate fund of $100 billion per year, and we're not getting very close to that. What I'm fighting for also in the EU, that we create a system where we do not depend on the mood of a Minister of Finance in every given year.
Can a coherent blueprint on climate change be found? Big capitals may well survive, but villages like Haysborough are proof that the challenges of climate change are real, and little by little, pieces of our landscape may keep disappearing away.
Η Ευρώπη πρέπει να επενδύσει στην έρευνα, ούτως ώστε να βρίσκεται στην πρώτη γραμμή των ανακαλύψεων. Ας παρακολουθήσουμε το σχετικό βίντεο.
The European Parliament hosts a science feast. Every year, MEPs from STOA, the Science and Technology Options Assessment Panel, invite eminent scientists to present their research. This year, the stage went to quantum optics.
I think increasingly we're seeing a need for better engagement between scientists and policymakers. We tend to work in silos.
Welcome. I'm Paul Rubik, chairman of the STOA committee.
One of the guests was none other than the laureate of the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2012. For Serge Haroche, European research cannot afford to rest on its laurels.
L'Europe a joué un rôle historique et continue à jouer un rôle essentiel dans ce domaine de la recherche, de l'innovation et de la créativité. Et il faut que ça continue, bien sûr. Et le défi posé en particulier par le développement extrêmement rapide des pays de l'Asie du Sud-Est doit être relevé par l'Europe.
Unser Ziel, 3% des GDPs zu erreichen, sind wir leider noch weit weg in der Europäischen Union.
Ich bin derzeit auch für Korea zuständig. Südkorea gibt 4% aus und hat damit das weltweit größte Wirtschaftswachstum erreicht.
MEPs would like to see the budget allocated to research doubled, but this desire may be hampered by EU budgetary restrictions.
Οι πρόεδροι Λουίς Μισελ και Φιτς Τζάκσον ερωτώνται για το τι μελιγενέστε μετά το 2020 με την εταιρική σχέση.
ACP countries and the EU have a particular bond. In 2020, our partnership, also known as the Cotonou Agreement, will come to an end. But what will happen next? Is the EU still ACP countries' best friend? We asked the co-president of the ACP-EU Joint Parliamentary Assembly, Fitz Jackson and Louis Michel, their take on where the relationship is heading. The Cotonou Agreement is due in 2020. What will happen next? Especially when it comes to financing ACP structures.
As countries emerge, the structure of the relationship need to be adjusted in keeping with the changes over time. And I believe the next round of the post-Cotonou agreement will seek to factor that going forward.
Du point de vue de l'Union européenne, il y a des questions qui se posent. Est-ce qu'on doit rester dans le format ACP? Est-ce qu'il ne vaudrait pas mieux avoir, par exemple, une association beaucoup plus forte Afrique-Union européenne et retransférer les Caraïbes et le Pacifique dans leurs zones respectives?
The ACP consortium was created to give an economic boost to its members. 40 years later, is the initiative a failure?
No, but I go a bit further. Not just to create a boost, but it's a mechanism to compensate for some of the distortion that existed in most of the ACP countries prior to. So it sought to redress that imbalance that existed before.
Non, je ne sais pas pourquoi on pose la question de l'échec. Je pense qu'il faut un peu voir ce que les pays ACP seraient aujourd'hui sans l'aide de l'Union européenne. Vous savez, l'Union européenne, c'est 60% de l'aide publique aux ACP. Je voudrais quand même le rappeler. Les États-Unis tournent autour de 20%. Et une différence majeure, c'est que l'aide de l'Union européenne, ce sont des dons. Ce n'est pas des prêts, ce sont des dons. Donc on aide dans le fond les pays ACP à se désendetter d'une certaine manière.
7 Caribbean countries benefit from visa waivers agreements with the EU. Could that be extended to other ACP countries?
The ability of member states of the ACP group to migrate is of enormous importance in terms of economic development. In the ACP countries, we don't only produce commodities, but we also provide services, and the ability of professionals in ACP countries to access markets of the European Union and provision of those services are of tremendous importance to ACP countries. So yes, we would love for that to be extended.
Je me bats beaucoup sur cette question-là. J'essaye vraiment de faire en sorte que l'on ait des relations visa-free, bien entendu, et permettant à ces gens de voyager, surtout quand on est parlementaire, quand on est des représentants des institutions. Mais ça avance quand même bien. J'ai quand même bon espoir de pouvoir régler ça dans les mois qui viennent.
Isn't aid an outdated way to help ACP countries? Shouldn't the EU help ACP countries by making sure multinationals pay their taxes where they're due, like the European Parliament is trying to do for the EU?
C'est un petit peu pesant de tout le temps entendre les critiques contre les multinationales occidentales. Je voudrais rappeler quand même que ceux qui pillent en premier lieu les richesses de l'Afrique dans un certain nombre de pays, ce ne sont pas les multinationales, madame. Ce sont parfois des responsables de ces pays-là. Il appartient aux pays partenaires, aux pays africains, de mettre en place leur cadre.
Well, the ACP country does not have an appetite or preference for aid. We have always said that we are more appreciative of developmental assistance because aid makes you dependent, and ACP countries want to move from dependency to interdependency, but not neglecting where we are coming from to where we are.
Κάπου εδώ, κυρίες και κύριοι, ολοκληρώθηκε ακόμα μία εκπομπή Ευρώπη τώρα. Εμείς θα τα ξαναπούμε την επόμενη εβδομάδα. Μέχρι τότε να είστε όλοι καλά. Καλή σας νύχτα.